Good morning. This is Laurel at Tara Farm and Nursery and the Refuge Permaculture Center. Just an update on what's been going on out here. I've been very busy. I had some projects come up that I didn't expect, like a breakdown of part of the irrigation system, which is an ongoing weirdness because parts are difficult to find. But I just thought I'd do a little quick walkthrough here. I just went out and moved the water on the windbreak. About once a month, I water it unless we've had a good monsoonal downpour. And the windbreak is made up of buffalo berry, or the tall blue-green in the background. There's a couple of small junipers and pines in there. They don't do so well down here because we get that direct, really hot wind. But I'll just leave the sprinklers in place for about 15 minutes and then move. And there's only one more move to make. There's also some golden willow babies in there that you can see on the right-hand side. And they're doing really well. The monsoonal downpours have sort of recharged some of the groundwater. And so they're really coming on strong. They've probably grown 2 feet or more this year already. The cows are out in the field, and one of my next projects is going to be cleaning up the pens for winter. So I'll rake all those out, and then I move all that debris out into the areas of the field behind it that are not real healthy, and use that debris as fertilizer, as a natural fertilizer. So I mowed everything around the house, but with the monsoonal rains, everything's coming back really fast. Usually I do the last mowing the end of June. I've done some pruning. You can see some cut branches there ready to be hauled out to the big compost area at the bottom of the field. And we'll go take a look in the garden now. This is one of the areas that the ducks like to hide in. I always have sunflowers up here because this is one of the first areas that the grasshoppers come into. And so if they have decided to build nests and lay eggs, all my little bombas, the bee flies, will find them hopefully and lay eggs in there and take care of that problem for me. We have some duck adjustments going on. I have one little girl duck who can't seem to find a home with any of the groups, so we're trying to get her adjusted with other ducks. I feel really bad for her, but they have to work it out themselves. I can't force it. Water rain barrels got storms out of the north recently, so I moved an extra barrel over here, and all 3 of those were full after the last monsoonal downpour. This beautiful bush right here is a black currant. It was so happy this year. It didn't give me a very big crop, but the bush itself has come back really well after the grasshoppers devastated it. And then this is an elderberry, and I thought I'd pretty much lost all the berries on it. We lost some of them. That moisture really did some interesting things this year, but there's a few left there. So we'll see how it comes through. This is on the north side, north corner of the house. So it gets the morning sun, but it doesn't get that really hot afternoon sun, and it's protected from the wind. And then here we are in the refuge garden. Some things did really well with the weather, and other things didn't do so well with the weather. So there's been a lot to learn this year. When to water, when to not water. A lot of pruning that I don't normally do, but because there was some leaf fungus going on in here. This big, beautiful shrub here is getting berries now. This is red osier dogwood. These berries are not edible. The majority of white berries on the planet are not edible. But the birds will eat them. Humans can't eat them. Russian sage has finally come out. A few sunflowers. There's some echinacea or large prairie coneflower over there. The big blue stem grass is starting to put up seed heads, which are really pretty. This is a native grass, and in the fall it puts up very feathery, tall seed heads. Very pretty. The seed is not highly vital, and so it isn't like I'm going to end up with a whole bunch of babies here, but I collect the seed every year and then start what I can in the nursery to get more of this native grass. It's really pretty. I really like it. And again, the sunflowers, I love them because they're easy, they're native, they're for the pollinators. I have them in all kinds of vases inside the house. They just are so right for this area. And this sunflower is a hybrid between our native sunflowers and the mammoth sunflower. So it cross-pollinated somewhere along the line. And it's really beautiful. It has this medium-sized flower head and lots of seed. There's one back there that's going to seed. And what that does is attract the seed-eating birds that also eat bugs. And they'll sit on these and pick out seeds and eat bugs all afternoon if I'll let them. My little grape vineyard here is doing pretty well this year. A lot of pruning in here to get rid of some of the viruses, bacterias, leaf molds, funguses that came up this year with all the cool wet weather and the ground being so damp. And I've actually pulled back or removed a lot of the mulch because that tends to be a medium in which those kinds of things grow. This is a river grape, and you can see the virus, the mold issues with these this year. I usually come through and pull all those leaves off because it will affect the fruit, but this one did not have any fruit on it this year, so I'm going to see if it can develop some immunity to some of this, and we'll see how it comes back next year. Hello, geese. Currants were a huge crop this year, really well. I put away pounds of them in the freezer. My little compost raised bed there. The mulberry actually produced a few berries this year. They're extremely slow growing. It's really a pretty plant in form and color. I'll be taking cuttings from that for next year to get new baby mulberries. They can get up to 80 feet, and so the best way to control them so that you can still harvest the fruit and it doesn't take over the landscape in size is to prune it back. So I sort of cut it back every year, and then I take those cuttings and I start baby mulberry trees from them. And in the cycle of things in the nursery, this will be a year when I'll be starting mulberry babies. The ducks are helping. They've been eating grasshoppers. And here's the second round of raspberries. So these plants that you see right here were the first round. They were pretty good, but they were awfully happy this year too, so they weren't forced to create a lot of fruit. But these tall ones here are now the second crop of raspberries. So this is what we mean by everbearing, is these yellowish ones that are ready to go to sleep and go dormant now. Those were last year's canes that got leaves this year and produced fruit. And then this year, these bright green, newer looking, taller canes are the ones that just came up this year. And now they'll be producing a second crop. And I think I see a beautiful ripe. I don't know if you can see that, but you won't for long because part of my brunch. And over here is the mama grapevine that I talk a lot about in classes. And she had a very bad leaf mold problem early on. There's still a little bit, but I got most of it cut out before it affected the fruit. And you can see last year I got 20 pounds off of her. You can see beautiful, beautiful fruit here. Back here. I don't think she's going to hit 20 pounds this year, but she's not doing badly. And I got the leaf mold off before it really affected the fruit very much. You'll also notice that I completely stripped out all of the mulch from below because that will contain spores of the leaf mold. And now I'm only watering her once a week. So stressing her to put the sugar into these grapes. You can see there's all kinds of beautiful grapes on this. This I make into grape juice and jellies and add it to other homemade fruit juices that I make. So let's go take a look in the nursery now. And here we are in the nursery, my big forest of sunflowers this year. I just let them go. I'm really hoping that having a group of these in each of the planting areas is going to help reduce the grasshopper nurseries. And if you look way in the back there, you'll see a very tall green sunflower with large leaves. Those are the mammoths. So those are the ones that will come in a little later, and they will produce huge seed heads. Those are the ones that I keep for sunflower seeds to eat through the winter. Here's the potting shed, which is a little empty. I have some choke cherries that are going to be potted up, and they'll be ready for sale next year. They look really good. And I will be honest, last year they went through a leaf rust, but all of them came back this year with no problems. So we are going to keep our fingers crossed that that probably means they have developed an immunity. And over on this side, we have some cool stuff happening. Here's gooseberry plants that will be ready for sale next year. Actually, they could go this year and go in the fall, and then they would wake up right where you want them to be for next spring. And these branches would then be in their second year, which is they produce 2 to 4 years. So the 2 to 4 year old branches produce the fruit. And back there you can see that tall grass seed head just coming up out of a little bitty pot. That is the feathery seed head of the native big blue stem. So I have a couple of those in 2-gallon pots that are just gorgeous ornamentally in the landscape, but they're also native, so they're super drought tolerant, super cold hardy, and they turn beautiful fall colors, everything from burgundy to gold to peach, just like leaves on a tree in the fall. And over here we have seed babies for next year. Yes, I do allow the spiders to make webs in here because they catch the bad bugs or the bugs that could cause harm. I have some baby buffalo berries started here. They won't be ready for a few years, but that's what we do, is overlap growing. Some coneflowers, and then the seeds over here are also more natives. Rabbit brush and blue fescue and fragrant sumac from seed. My tomato plant for the year, it's just a simple Roma. It's been producing really beautiful tomatoes for a month or so now. Down here are fragrant sumac and wild rose. They're doing really well. Interestingly enough, the fragrant sumac had no problems whatsoever with all this moisture. It does tend to like to grow in a riparian zone, which would mean that it was closer to water on a regular basis anyway. Baby lilacs that will be going into 2-gallon pots for sale next year. Here's elderberry in 2- and 5-gallon pots. Those could actually be planted this fall. Then they again would wake up right where you want them to be instead of having to traumatize them by transplanting them. Here's grapevines. Some of them are cuttings from that mother vine we looked at. They also had some leaf fungus, mold problems. But again, I pruned it all out, and all the leaves that are coming in now don't have it. I leave these branches because I like crawling under them into the jungle. These are Rocky Mountain penstemon. They're in 2-gallon pots. They're ready to go in the ground this fall. And in June of next year, they will put up those beautiful, deep lavender, purple flowers. And then they get these seed heads that also retain some color to the point where they almost look like flowers. When they turn brown, you have to be very careful, and you cut them off and turn them upside down in a glass jar, and the seeds will come out and you can transplant. Hi, baby robin. Hi, baby. A baby robin has been following me around in here when I've come to take care of the other plants. There's 2 of them. There's another one. I don't mind them being in here. They don't bother any of the plants in here. There's no fruit production in here. And they eat all the bugs. Oh, there's 3 of them. That's so great. That's great. In this round tub, I have beets. They're in native soil with some compost and some aged cow manure mixed all together. And I've been harvesting a little bit every week. I share the greens with my neighbor, and I'm freezing and pickling the beets depending on their size. Over here I have yellow crooked neck squash, but some of the seed I saved from last year was apparently a cross-pollination. So I'm getting these round, almost gourd-shaped yellow squash. I've taken 2 really big ones, and I stuffed them with a moose meat chili. Thank you to Elena and her hubby for the donation. I love getting wild game as a trade. And then in the back there are pumpkins, but they've had some real problems with blossom rot this year. I guess being closer to the ground, the moisture caused problems. So I've been pruning out leaves to give them more air and sunlight. And I'm just keeping my fingers crossed. So far, I've only found 1 little baby pumpkin in there. Here's the raised tower beds. and I put 3 more in, so they're going to be cleaned up and filled. And this year I'm putting in perforated PVC pipe. I'm drilling holes in it, and I'm putting that in the center before filling them. And then the water will be distributed through that so that it's more even through the soil. And over here, the green sugar snap peas. It's amazing. I'll come out this time of day and they're tiny little beans. And I come out at night to put the animals away, and oh my gosh, they're huge. And I snack on those all day long. And there's our little baby robin over there. I don't know if you can see. Hi, baby. Yeah. This is the fragrant sumac, and you can see the red berries on there. Those stay on through the winter, so even after the leaves turn, again, amazing spectrum of colors. After they fall off, the berries stay on so that you aren't just looking at dead sticks all winter. But additionally, those red berries are dried and ground and used as a spice in Mediterranean dishes. So, I've been very busy, but there's always things to do. And my garden's pretty productive this year, but there have been some challenges. So I hope to see many of you in my class in September on permaculture plants. The fall is still a very good time to plant perennial plants, especially native plants. It is the time to get perennial native seed down, because in nature, that's when seed is planted or deposited. And I'm kind of hoping to take tomorrow off. And now that I've caught up on everything here, there's always projects, but a few can wait. So thank you for joining me. Again, I hope to see some of you in my class, but additionally, I'll be giving a tour on September 17th, where I go into a lot more detail, probably more than you ever wanted to know, about some of these plants and how to deal with them and what works and what doesn't. And I look forward to seeing many of you soon. Thanks for joining me. Have a great weekend. It's beautiful out here.